world lost its mind. When common sense suddenly became an uncommon virtue, Florida was a refuge of sanity, a citadel of freedom for our fellow Americans and even for people around the world.
Ron DeSantis has decided to put his people first.
Ron DeSantis taking a lot of heat over it, but he's not backing down.
Florida's success has been made more difficult by the floundering federal establishment in Washington, D.C. An inflationary spending binge that has left our nation weaker and our citizens poorer. It has enacted pandemic restrictions and mandates. It has recklessly facilitated open borders. It has imposed an energy policy that has crippled our nation's domestic production. This has caused many to be pessimistic about the country's future. Some even say that failure is inevitable.
This is a powerful video from a governor who's done quite a lot in 4 years' time, a little over 4 years' time, to change the entire political makeup of his state. And he's got a brand new book that is out. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis now joins us via Skype. His new book, which is out tomorrow, you can pre-order it right now, The Courage to Be Free, Florida's Blueprint for America's Revival. Governor, it's a pleasure to have you. Good to see you. Congrats on the book. That's a powerful video, and that's the video for the book.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, Dana, I mean, you know, because you talk to people are frustrated with the direction of the country. It seems like, particularly the federal government, they make one misstep after another, oftentimes abusing their power and going after our freedoms. And people think that America's best days are behind them. Some people think that. And, you know, I get frustrated too. But I think what we can say in Florida is, you know, there is a better way. We've shown that you can succeed beyond what anybody thought I would be able to do, you know, over the last 4 years. And it's basically by being true to the principles that made this country great, being willing to lead on those principles, and to have the courage to stand there when you're taking the fire from the left and the media and not back down. And when you do that, people respond. And I can tell you, when I ran for re-election, we had people that would have walked over hot coals barefoot to vote for us because we had their back when it counted.
Yeah, and that is actually, when you talk about how much that has changed, I was just looking over the percentages, the last election, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach. I mean, there's not a single statewide office where an elected statewide office that has a Democrat in it right now. It's Republican, the legislature, Republican. Areas that have not been Republican in a long time, or really, like I think it's Palm Beach Commissioner, now you have a Republican. That's incredibly significant. Tell me how, I mean, I know it took a lot of work. How did you make that happen in 4 years?
Well, I think, as you know, in 2018, I got elected with 32,000 vote margin. And so here I am, 40 years old, youngest governor of the country, taking the helm of the third largest state. And I was advised to trim my sails, you know, don't necessarily rock the boat. It was a close election. And I rejected that advice. I mean, my view is I may have gotten 50% of the vote, but I earned 100% of the executive power. And I'm going to use it to advance the agenda I promised I would do and the best interests of the state of Florida. So we had a good understanding of our constitutional powers. The pressure points were, we were not taking polls. I never took a poll the whole time as governor. I think you lead and then you shape public opinion. You don't need to respond to public opinion. And we said we're going on offense. I'm not going to sit there and let the media define the terms of the debate or the left. And so we were constantly out there raising issues, not being willing to shirk from these fights. And I think what ended up happening is it was hard for the left and the media to keep up with us. And we really had a torrid pace. So we did all that. We took all the issues that came before us. And then, of course, COVID was a big thing, and our state handled it well. And so we went from winning by 32,000 votes to 1.5 million votes. You mentioned winning Miami-Dade County, 70% Latino. We won by double digits. You don't do that unless you're convincing people who used to not vote for Republicans to vote for us. And I think the exciting thing about it is, yes, the results, and we're very happy with that. But, you know, I led in a way that drew a lot of fire from the media, and a lot of elected officials don't like that. And a lot of people thought that I was not going to be successful politically, particularly during COVID, when I was doing things that were getting frowned upon by the establishment and the media. But I think what we've shown is, boldness is your friend. If you do it, there's a lot of political payoff for it. And here's the thing, if it doesn't work out politically, at least you did the right thing when you had power.
And that's true. And that you could really see, I mean, you won independent voters by more than 15 points, 60% of Hispanic voters, the majority of women voters, highest percentage of black voters from any Republican gubernatorial candidate in like our generation's history in Florida. Hasn't been seen in any other state, including my state of Texas, where we have a Republican governor and Republican legislature, but we didn't see those type of margins. Is that down to, I would imagine you attribute it to the issues that you tackled and the way that you tackled those issues, correct?
Yeah, look, I think, Dana, when people see that you're willing to stand up for them when it's not easy, they end up having a loyalty to support you going forward because they remember that. I mean, they remember me standing in the fire for their kids' schools and the jobs and the businesses being open and all that. And also, I think that you prove as a leader, are you someone they can trust or not? I think even my biggest critics would say, if Governor DeSantis says he's going to do something, he is going to do it. He doesn't just say and do platitudes. Once he says he's doing it, you can take that to the bank. And so I think people appreciate having a leader where you know where he stands and you don't have to worry about that. And there's some people that don't agree with me on a lot of stuff that still voted for me because I had their back. I had people that voted for Bernie Sanders that voted for me because I saved their jobs with the vax mandates. They were going to lose their jobs to some of these Bernies. Now, granted, we're not going to agree on a lot of other stuff, but that was enough where they saw that I was the one guy willing to fight for him.
We're talking with Governor Ron DeSantis. His new book, The Courage to Be Free, is out tomorrow. You write about fighting wokery in your book, particularly, obviously, fighting for our students. Now, the town in which I live in Texas of all places, was the first town to actually battle this at the ballot box. And it was a bunch of grassroots parents, and amongst the leadership of those grassroots parents were Cuban immigrants, but they were all, like white supremacist adjacency. That's the narrative. They successfully took back our school board here, which it was amazing. I did not realize that you were actually endorsing in local school board races because, I mean, if all politics are local, why are more governors not doing that? That is something I've never seen before.
Well, what we found in Florida, under our Constitution, school board races are nonpartisan. So if you were to run, Dana, it'd just be your name, no party. If I ran, it'd just be my name. Now, these are low-profile races. So what happens is the money that goes into that is from the school unions. So they get behind a union candidate, they flood the money, and they basically appeal to voters in red counties and try to dress their candidate up as if they share the county's values. And a lot of times they don't. So what we did was just shine a light. We were able to communicate to Republican voters and independent voters which candidates I was supporting and why, and then being able to point out who was being backed by the unions. And so we got into 34 school board races and were able to win 29 of them. We now have conservative majorities. In Miami-Dade County, the largest school district in the state, 2.8 million people, Sarasota, all these other places we were able to flip. And so the thing is we've done a lot in the state, and you guys have covered parents' rights in education. We do school choice, ban CRT. That's all very important. But the state, and a state as big as Florida, the state government cannot be micromanaging everything involving education. You need those school board members to be the first line of defense, to be able to stand for the parents and stand for solid curriculum and fight the indoctrination. And so this is going to make Florida so much better to have these school board members. And oh, by the way, we've also put out our hit list for 2024. There's some liberal school board members in conservative districts that we're going to target and make sure we elect people that share the community's values.
I love the network that's created with us. Talking with Governor Ron DeSantis, his new book, The Courage to Be Free, out tomorrow. So in this book, too, you're talking about door knocking and going and meeting people. And you had your wife, First Lady Casey DeSantis, with you. Y'all were scootering from house to house. Tell me about this.
This is the first time I ran, 2012, running for the U.S. Congress. I started with no name ID, no money, had never run before, and we had a 7-way primary, and Casey and I would go. I bought her a little scooter. I had a Ford F-150. We'd load the scooter in the bed of the truck, go to the neighborhood, She'd get on the scooter, go to all the Republican primary voters' houses on one side of the neighborhood. I'd start on the other side, do the same thing. We'd knock. But here's the thing about it, Dana. When you stand there and listen to somebody, one, if you just look them in the eye, ask for their vote, that's the best way to get the vote. But a poll, you can poll things. It doesn't tell you people's real concerns in their own words. And so I was on the doorsteps listening to thousands of people in that congressional district. And I heard some of the problems that saw with the Republican establishment in Washington, for example. They got so frustrated that people would get elected saying all the right things. Then they'd go to D.C. and they would go native. And they would say to me, they'd be like, I like you. I like what you're saying. But don't you go and be like them. How do I know you're going to do what you say you do? And one of the things I was able to say was, listen, I was a blue-collar kid. I played baseball in college and went to law school at Yale and Harvard. And if you could go through Yale and Harvard and come out more conservative than when you went in, then you're going to be able to handle the swamp in D.C. and keep your values intact. And, I like to think that I did that because they were very happy with my performance and eventually elected me governor.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, the Courage to Be Free, out tomorrow. I have to congratulate you because earlier today, and you talked about the pressure that Bob Chapek was feeling with the woke fight with Disney. You get into your book and how he was really being pressured by a lot of Democrats, by other people in Disney to get involved in this. He ultimately did not listen to common sense. But today you signed that removal of that special tax status, that Reedy Creek district from Disney. I did not realize how much power they actually had. I mean, this was a corporation that, this was crony preferred status, and now they have to compete like everyone else. I think your quote was, Disney is going to be treated like SeaWorld is treated. Tell me about this.
Well, these companies, I think, really play with fire when they get involved in some of these issues, especially Disney, which is a family-friendly company. You're supposed to be catering to parents with young kids. And Dana, when I'm dealing with this issue, I'm not just dealing with it as a governor. I'm dealing with it like a dad with a 6, a 4, and a 2-year-old at home. So my wife and I are sensitive about this. And so they were doing it. The company's values have obviously changed, and that's bad. But what's the problem is they had this self-governing status that no other company in Florida has ever enjoyed, no other individual. And so when they're engaged in activism against our Parents' Rights Bill, we in Florida are effectively subsidizing their activism through this special arrangement. And so it was our view that you cannot have an arrangement like that. First of all, it's not good policy, period. But to have a company that's values are so divergent from where we're at in terms of parents' rights, we had to act. And so we started it last year. We had to do things because they have a municipal debt and all this. And the media was trying to say, oh, if you don't let Disney govern themselves, then all Floridians are going to pay more taxes and debt. And actually, bill we signed today, Disney loses their self-governing status. They have to abide by all the laws of the state of Florida. They lose their exemption. They will now pay fair share of taxes, and they are solely responsible for the municipal debt. So everything we said we would do, we've delivered. Everything the media said was going to happen, again, turns out to be another lie.
That's a huge achievement. One last quick question for you. I know we're coming up against a hard break, and we appreciate your time. We'll have to have you come back and talk with us. The makeup of the legislature, you get into everything that you've done in your book, like basically, your start, everything that you went through with the lockdown, the Stop Woke Act, which, by the way, does mandate the teaching of Black history, unlike what media narratives are telling everybody. But with the new makeup of the Florida legislature, demonstrably more conservative than when you first took office, and you're able to get so many more things done, including constitutional carry, which I know is working its way through the system. This is awesome. This would be another state to add. Tell me about this, because would you sign this? So if it makes it to your desk, you will sign this.
Oh, no, of course. So when I was running 18, Dana, remember, because you were down in Florida for Parkland in the aftermath, and they passed significant gun control. I was a candidate, and I said I would have vetoed that because I think it violated Second Amendment and Fifth Amendment due process rights. That was not necessarily an easy position to take at the time because people were understandably upset. Right. There was a desire to just do something. But my view is constitutional rights don't mean much if in those difficult times you abandon them. And so I ran and got elected saying I would have vetoed that bill. At the same time, a lot of those members early on had voted for it, and there was not the appetite for them to do constitutional carry. So I worked with the current speaker. Last campaign, I said, he's committed. If we can get a big majority, this is going to get done. So it will get done. And there's 25 states that allow you to carry, don't require the permission slip. Florida will make a majority of the states that have constitutional carry.
That's a huge achievement. Congratulations. And congrats on the book. Florida Governor Ron
Thanks.
DeSantis, The Courage to Be Free. You can pre-order now. It's out officially tomorrow. Governor, appreciate your fight. Would love to have you back. Thank you for all you're doing, not just for Florida, but for America. We appreciate it.
Godspeed. Thank you.
Of course. Take care. We have more to come, folks. After this next quick break, we have a lot more shows. Stay with us. We'll be back after this.